So we're back again with the secondary build Yushikov. Some people in my Twitch chat really wanted to see this one again, and there's a reason I haven't really been playing the Yushikov all that much since it released. I just don't find it to be a great battleship at this super ships tier. I feel like it lacks a little bit on the consistency that the other super battleships have, especially the Satsuma. And when it comes to tankiness, which is the absolute strength of this Yushikov, well, you're probably going to die pretty quickly anyway, since the DPM at this tier is pretty extreme. So full YOLO rushing a Yushikov in hasn't really been the strategy that's going to work out all that well. The guns, of course, are Kremlin guns, and while that's a decent thing at tier 10, again, not quite consistent enough at this super ships tier. The combat instructions will give us an accuracy bonus every once in a while, but I just haven't found it to be good enough when compared to the other super battleships. I'd rather play the other ones, especially the Satsuma, where we can potentially dev strike carriers as a first blood. That was the more recent video here on super battleships. But today we're not playing this ship for its main guns, or really its tankiness. We're playing it for the secondaries. This ship, of course, has Smolensk turrets as secondaries. So, in theory, you can have 6 Smolensk turrets firing at a single target all at once, and that's pretty strong. Those are very, very good guns, although we don't have the massively improved secondary accuracy like a Hanover might have, or an Ohio, or Schlieffen. Still enough gunpowder to hit most targets that are pretty big at this tier, especially if we get into a 1v1 with a Hanover. Potentially a pretty scary battleship to face at closer ranges. He, of course, has 32 mil overmatch, and his secondaries can pen 32 millimeters, where ours can't. So we're going to be relying on these secondaries to hit the superstructure, do a lot of fire damage, and then, of course, our main guns are hopefully going to do a decent job here, and our tankiness. This ship, of course, has the most HP in the game. 135,000 health is a lot, especially combined with the Russian fast-acting damage controls that we have here. You only get 5 of them with the full build, but that really helps you deal with fire damage. High health pool means fire damage ticks for a lot more. It's percentage based. And this gives us that option to damage control a lot of fires very early, making us pretty tanky. The other reason the Yushikov might do okay in a close quarters brawl with a Hanover is the smaller superstructure and overall better hull armor, even though the Hanover and the German line has turtleback, which means you're probably not going to get citadeled when broadside. It still results in a lot of full pens, where the Yushikov is just an insane amount of armor over a at least somewhat vulnerable citadel. So it's very difficult to citadel this thing, and oftentimes you're just going to shatter. This almost allows us to over-angle, and that's what I'm going to do here against this Hanover. It also allows us to get more of our secondaries firing. That's the benefit here of having this extreme armor. We also want to bait the Hanover into firing at our broadside, as well as his secondaries hitting our broadside. The moment he aims for our nose, or he has to get into our superstructure, he's going to do more damage than if he's shattering on our broadside. That's kind of the idea here, and we're going to get into it. Secondary brawl begins up here in the north. We didn't have too many people up here to start with, so that's why I was playing a little bit more passive. I wanted to get in and brawl. That is the idea with the secondary build Yushikov, but given how few people we had, I was a little bit nervous. I'm very glad, though, that the Hanover decided to full send here. This allows us to test out these secondaries. We're getting a decent number of hits already. We just have to worry about the DDs. There's a lot of destroyers up here. It feels actually like all 4 DDs are pretty much up here with us. So torpedoes are a massive problem here. Hanover, of course, is going to have Hydro, which helps you to deal with that. We just have to hopefully predict where those torpedoes are coming from. Marceau might have torped at us, so we should pull forward a little bit. The Humphreys might be rounding the corner on us. I don't know if he's going to come try and YOLO us, so I'm ready to push forward. The Hanover here is taking quite a bit of damage already. I'm pretty happy with how these secondaries have performed. The issue could be with the secondary turret survivability. One of the weak points of the Kremlin, one of the nerfs that it received way back in the day after it released, was the turret health on the auxiliary armaments is not very good. You can see the Des Moines in just 2 salvos, taken out 25% of our secondaries already. Yeah, we had 100% of our secondaries, and then Des Moines shot us twice, and now it's down to 75. Bit of an issue. So we got to angle for this Des Moines, while also trying not to show full broadside to this Hanover. I noticed the Hanover hasn't pre-turned his turrets, but angled just long enough that he wastes his shot not into our belt, and we managed to live through that broadside. Hopefully trying to take this Des Moines out. The weakness, of course, with a secondary build, you don't have accuracy. It's only 7%. So really, we should be killing this Des Moines here much faster than we actually did, but that is a downside of battleships. You're not going to have the best accuracy in the world. Kuznetsov, of course, is what allows us to live here. We can't mention a Russian tanky ship without mentioning Kuznetsov, a very, very powerful commander, and we actually managed to win this engagement against that Hanover, surprisingly. Witherer Arsonist means a lot of that damage came from fires, and that is the result of Hanover having a massive superstructure, and of course these secondaries being Smolensk turrets. They're pretty good at lighting fires, those Smolensk turrets. Now with this Harugumo, I didn't know what he was doing. Turns out he's actually just AFK for some reason. I was thinking maybe he's waiting for me to fire, and then he's going to smoke up and use my detection bloom to farm me while in smoke. I don't know, but I was trying to figure it out, but I really do think it was just an AFK destroyer, and the Shimakaze on our flank probably means death for us at this point, but we've already had a great game stalling out the enemy's strong flank. You'll notice there was just 3 of us here in the north for our team, and while they did manage to get the cat from us, they didn't manage to push through. So our strong flank in the south was able to push forward and actually win us this game. So we do end up going down, but nearly 3 million potential damage with mostly a secondary build. We're not really focused on tanking quite as much, giving up some upgrades that would be nice for tanking, and 210,000 damage feels really nice. And 341 secondary hits means we actually did decently with those secondaries. It's not going to work out every game. We got very fortunate that this Hanover decided to brawl us close range. Yeah, 141,000 damage was on the Hanover alone. So definitely don't think this build is good, but we do get lucky in this one. Over 100k from those secondaries too, which is pretty good. As for the build here on the Yushikov, Kuznetsov is just amazing, really. If you're playing any sort of tanky Russian ship, he's going to do so well for you. And here, long-range secondaries as well as manual secondary aiming. We're giving up concealment here, which is pretty nice on some of these Russian battleships. They have surprisingly decent concealment, allowing them to push up a little bit more, disengage if they're not firing, but fire prevention and emergency repair expert, pretty required here. Given that we have extra damage controls that we can go through quickly, and then fire prevention, well, we all know how good that actually is. Adrenaline rush as well. Vigilance, trying to help out with those torpedoes. I was fully intent on YOLOing in with the Yushikov, so with this build in particular, trying to make the full secondary thing work, and it surprisingly did here, but yeah, I don't think I can recommend this build. Yushikov really probably performs better with a more mid-range focused build in the average game, because you're just not going to get to brawl like that in the average high-tier game these days. It's just a bit of a one-off. But if you do want to try it, here it is for you. Full secondary Yushikov can work every once in a while if you do manage to find that one lucky game where everyone wants to push in. But otherwise, I really can't recommend Yushikov. Again, this ship is just not quite consistent enough. There's much better battleships at this super ships tier. Satsuma is certainly the best, but even Hanover and Petrie, I would say, are better than this one. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed a pretty entertaining battle for you, and have a great rest of your day.